Goslov, I think you can start now. Goslov Kamalu, please kindly indicate if you can hear me. Okay, he's no more on the call. Good evening, everyone. My name is Hussein Mahadi. I am the co-moderator for today's session. Our moderator is Goslov Kamalu. Kindly indicate if you can all hear me, please.
Okay, yes, can hear you now.
All right. Okay, Goslov is back.
Okay.
So you can carry on.
Okay, sorry, please. I had a network glitch. Good evening to everyone. Welcome to the third week of JIIPCC mentorship session in the fintech of healthcare and law course. My name is Gottslov Kamaloni, and I would be okay, sorry about that. My name is Gottslov Kamaloni, and I'll be the moderator for this evening's course. Hope you had an amazing week. Hello, mentees. Can we interact, please? Hope you had an amazing week over this wonderful week already. Can we hear a little from us, please? How was our week? I'm seeing
it's been a wonderful week. It's been awesome. I got back safely from my trip, so I'm happy. Good to be here.
I like that. I can hear the enthusiasm in your voice. We thank God for that. Mr. Ijeweme, I hope I got that name correctly.
Yeah, well, A for effort.
So please, do you mind pronouncing this so that I can get the right pronunciation?
Okay, I think to make everybody's lives easier, just call me IJ.
Okay. Although I'll come back later to get the name. I enjoy when I can pronounce names correctly, but I'll stick to IJ. How's your day been, please? And how's the week been?
Been really good, really good. Yeah, challenging as usual, but I mean, what's life without challenges? So it's really good.
I like that. As the truth, where there's life, challenges surely come. The best ways, or the most important thing is how do we get out of them? Hello, Esther. Hello, Idion. I see our mentor, Mr. Beniza, on board the call. So we're moving straight up into. Hello, Mr. Beniza, saying something?
Hello, good evening, mentees. Glad to be here. I hope our weekend has been productive and stress-free.
Nice to have you two on the call. Mentees, you asked the question. Please do also engage the answer.
Hello, can they hear me?
Hello.
I didn't get any response.
Exactly. Hello, mentees.
Yes. I didn't get the question. Sorry.
Okay, I said I hope our weekend has been productive and stress-free.
Yeah, it's been awesome, sir.
Thank you so much.
Glad to hear that.
Okay, so please, mentees, I would love to encourage us that throughout today's course, it's not all the time that we have to remain muted. Sometimes to unmute yourself to engage our mentor, and if we can't do that, the chat box, let's engage. So it doesn't seem as though the mentor is talking to himself most of the time. It makes the class a little bit, or the session a little bit more engaging, rather. Okay, Mr. Hussein, please, can I have a little bit of Mr. Ebenezer? So we just introduce him formally again to everyone, because I'm seeing some faces for the first time in class today. Okay, so I think I'll just handle that from my end. Sorry for the break, please. Hello, Esther. I saw your name. Esther, how has your week been?
It's been fine. It's wonderful.
Amazing.
Thank
amazing.
you. Yes.
Amazing.
Mm.
Okay. I know he's no new face to this course, but then it gives us so much joy when we talk about him every time. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll briefly go through the amazing profile of our mentor for today. One of our mentors for today. Hopefully the other mentor gets to come on board before the end of this session. Okay, Mr. Benisa is a legal practitioner, consultant, creative writer, entrepreneur, and a passionate patients' rights and safety advocate. He is the principal partner, Law Found, multidisciplinary consult, a law firm that provides innovative and cutting-edge legal solutions located in Abuja, FCT, Nigeria. He is also a medical law expert and the executive director of Lawyers Arise for the People Initiative, LAPI, a patients' rights and safety advocacy NGO with his law office in Abuja, FCT. Mr. Benisa is an associate member of Medical Law Professionals Association of Nigeria, MELPAN, a trained medical care assessor by International Medical Law Center, St. Kitts, North America, and currently serves as a legal team lead for Make Our Hospital Work campaign, a citizen-led community-based advocacy to improve the quality of healthcare services in hospitals and primary healthcare facilities across Nigeria. As a patient's rights and safety advocate, Ebenezer has featured as guest discussant on different radio and television stations where he sensitizes Nigerians on their rights as patients. Ebenezer has over a decade on the field experience in HIV/AIDS and patients' rights advocacy. He worked with Center for the Rights to Health, CRH, a reputable NGO that is committed to health rights advocacy, where he volunteered as program officer, legal/human rights program for over a year before he resigned to focus on his active law practice and patients' rights and safety advocacy. While at CRH, he, among other things, worked as an associate editor researcher of the book, The Right to Health and Violation of Patients' Rights in Nigeria, a Dex review of health-related laws in Nigeria, published by CRH in 2016. He is a leader, enthusiast, and has attended different leadership trainings with certification. He resides in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja of Nigeria. Thank you so much, Mr. Benisa. It's so wonderful having you in the course today.
Okay, good evening, everybody.
Good evening,
Glad
sir.
to be here as usual.
Thank you so much, sir.
Can you hear me?
Last week.
Good evening,
we can
sir.
hear you, sir. Last week it was really amazing having you on board, and
Is Dr. Victor here?
So we want to make a quick recap of last week.
Yes, I had an internet or network glitch, and within the time period frame I wanted to resolve that, less than 3 minutes to come back, I discovered that you guys had ended the session. Okay, and it was our question and answer segment. So I later called Hassan, and I told him that we will start today with those questions that we could not take last week. So if you still have the questions of last week, we can commence with those questions. Then secondly, those who were around last week, the participants, I would like you to type on the chat box what you got last week. I want to keep a tab that we're not doing a routine here. We just come, talk, and go. No, I want to know that there's an impact. So whatever value you got last week. Let's have it on the comment section. I learned this, I learned that. I didn't understand this before, but after last week's session, I had a better understanding of this concept. So 2-3 minutes, let me have it coming in. While they are typing, let's have the question rolling. You can ask the questions, moderator, if you have them.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. I'll move right into the questions. Please, mentees, do not forget, let's get the chat box busy with everything you learned from the last class, please. I'm happy that our mentor always looks forward to that. It's really, really noteworthy. Thank you so much, sir, because I believe that it keeps the mentees on their
Mr.
toes.
Odofia, good to see you. You're back.
Okay, so I'll go to the first.
Good to see you too, sir. Wonderful performance.
Well done, my brother. Well done, well done.
During the week, sir. We were so impressed. Our own mentor making waves.
You said?
Sir.
I didn't hear you.
Wonderful presentation at the MBA Garki.
Okay, you participated.
Yeah, I was fully there, sir. I felt your impact.
Awesome.
Thank you for your leadership, sir.
Thank you, thank God. We thank God.
Yes, sir.
So let's have the questions.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. So the first question reads, how can the regulatory bodies continually perform ongoing monitoring and audits, especially with portability of health data of national citizens to international organizations/companies? How can the regulatory bodies continually perform ongoing monitoring and audits, especially with portability of health data of national citizens to international organizations/companies? You can also find the questions on the chat box.
I think let me read it from the chat box so that I can have a better understanding. The question reads, how can the regulatory bodies continually perform ongoing monitoring and audits, especially with probability of health data of national citizens to international bodies and organizations? Okay, I want to suppose that this person's concern is that in the course of performing the audit or regulating task, that health data of citizens might get out to international bodies or international organizations. I want to be, because the question is not too clear towards the end, but that's my understanding of the question, that in the course of regulating data, private citizens' data might get out of hand and get to international organizations and all that. Well, if we have proper data management, that won't be an issue. I started this question last week by saying that first thing is to have our data in order. 2 is to have regulatory agencies. Don't forget that what we are dealing with is not, even though some hospitals might have offices, but the work is more electronic than physical. So if we are saying regulation, firstly, what the government needs to do is to create a body with which every telemedicine operator should register. So if you want to operate or float a telemedicine organization, register with this body and report occasionally what you are doing, such that if there is a breach that you are not registered, or an outsider, somebody who is not registered yet begins to operate, 1, you will get the person penalized. What that registration is going to do is, firstly, you are going to ascertain the professional qualifications of the practitioners. Now, telemedicine is not what you can successfully operate without advertisement. So if we have registration of practitioners or their companies, 1, or the government the government in conjunction with Medical and Dental Council can have a special license for those who want to operate this, and put certain criteria in place. When you meet this, we license you to operate. So the regulation starts first and foremost with licensing. Now, if there is no licensing, if you are saying anybody who qualifies as a medical doctor, you are free to do as you please, we will have a problem. But if there is licensing, it means that there's a criteria for each company or doctor to meet before they are licensed to operate. One, so we have standardized number of operators or licensed, we've captured the number of operators we have. We will now have people who are more like enforcers of the regulation. If they now see an advert that is not from any of the licensed operators, we know that this person is not registered. And if you are not registered, there is high probability that you are doing some things that are not consistent with the ethics of the profession. So that's one. Two, on data protection, there should be training and retraining. So for each of the registered organizations, even though it is their primary responsibility to protect their clients' data. So they now know how to engage professionals who can build a hack-proof systems for them to store and protect their data or their clients' data from being taken illegally. But as for being intercepted or going out of hand to international organizations, that will now be a breach. It will be an issue between the organization providing the e-healthcare or telemedicine and the internet or cybersecurity organization they're engaged. Do you understand me? So that is just how to go about regulation. Firstly, register the operators. If you have an idea of the people operating, you now know what to regulate. If there is no operation, if there is no list, registration criteria of operators is a free market for everybody. And since it's an online thing, people can easily be swindled. Secondly, there is need also for government to do massive sensitization that in this era of e-health and telemedicine, these are the organizations we have accredited to operate in Nigeria. If you have any person advertising to you outside this operation, know that the person is into quackery or illegal operation. Report such company. That's just the few steps. Can we have the second question?
Okay, sir, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Some mentees are sending, okay, one mentee has been sending his feedback. Second question reads, are there any pressure groups or associations in Nigeria and Africa championing the cause of presenting bills for laws to regulate the e-health sector? If yes, how far have they gone in achieving this purpose?
Okay, for e-health sector, I do not know of any now, strictly e-health sector, I do not know. But for the health sector generally, there are a lot of work going on. I happen to be a member of Patient Safety Africa. Patient Safety Africa is an NGO also that is pushing for patient safety. And there has been ongoing discussion for at least the past 2 to 3 years now to even bring different legal documents on operational protocols to guarantee the safety of patients. I am aware of that. That discussion is ongoing with Ministry of Health because they need to be carried along. I am aware that Lagos State is doing something to pass, God help me now, fertility law bill to regulate what's it called again now? Artificial reproductive therapy, artificial reproductive technologies in Nigeria, IVF, surrogacy, and all that. Now, there is a law going, in fact, we're in May now, sometime in March or late February, I was consulted on that bill in Lagos, though through a third party. I didn't have a hand in it, but they sought my input. Okay, what should we do? What do you suggest? What do you suggest? Yes, not directly. A friend of mine who is into that area of practice, who was also consulted, let me put it that way, to help in drafting the bill, consulted me now to make an input, suggest, okay, what should we put? What should we put? How should it go? So there are efforts being made to strengthen the Nigerian healthcare system, different aspects of the Nigerian healthcare provision, but categorically for e-health and telemedicine, I am not aware of any for now. But given what the rapid development and turn of events, I can guarantee you that between now and 2025, if none is in the offing, something will come up. Take that from me. If none is in the offing now, between now and the next 2 years, I guarantee you something will come up in that regard.
Sir, can we sow that seed in this forum? That as we proceed, there's no pressure.
People have struck. Let me turn on the generator, please. It has been, the sky has been threatening to rain for the past 30 minutes. They've taken their
Sorry about that, sir.
Let me turn on the generator.
Okay, that's fine. Please, mentees, we still want to advise and encourage us to, our mentor had given us something to send on the group, and I think just one mentee has been responding. Please, let's do well to respond with that. Thank you so much. Then the presenter for the group should kindly get ready, because once our mentor comes in and probably after attending to John's question, we'll be moving straight on to the presentation.
Okay, Mr. Doctor, you were saying something.
Yes, sir. Can we sow that seed on this platform? Because there's no pressure group. There's no, this electronic health issue, it really needs to be looked into and regulated. So currently, there's no
For this week's
group,
topic.
there's no
Thank you.
formalized body of lawyers that, or even people, not just lawyers, that are applying pressure, that are making people know that a lot of what we hear, particularly as it relates to telemedicine, they are not, it's becoming so widespread that a lot of people can just easily quote something they heard on Twitter, go online, and there are no laws. And I feel a body of people should be dedicated to pressuring the powers that be to make laws, and maybe even if it's policy statements and all of that, to at least govern that sector. I believe we can sow that seed in this small platform. As few as we are, it's something we can start from here with your guidance, sir, and your mentorship.
It is not a bad idea. It is not a bad idea. It's something that we can research further into, get what is obtainable in other jurisdictions and how they run. We compare and contrast, know what we can adapt into our own ecosystem, and present it as a bill before the National Assembly. Look for a legislator that is progressive-minded, people who look for the Committee on Health and all that committee. Look for different committees, the Committee on Judiciary on Health, and see how we can bring it up. It's not a bad idea. We can tinker with it, and also engage practitioners properly. Engage healthcare practitioners, the few who are into telemedicine, and carry them along, so that it will not be an exercise in futility. So we can tinker with that. Thanks for bringing up that suggestion.
Thank you so much, sir. And we said that would be a wrap for e-health / legal issues in emerging healthcare law. We're moving straight on into the topic for this week, which is healthcare contracts and transactions. At this moment, I would love to give the floor to the presenter presenting for this week to kindly start off the presentation, please, so that we can have ample time for our mentor to give feedback on the presentation and as well as give his own take on the topic. Please, presenter for the week, you have the floor, please. Is the presenter ready, please?
Who is presenting for this week?
Okay, Esther is taking over. Esther, kindly notify us so we know you're here. Thank you. You have 10 minutes, please. Esther, please, you're still muted.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, we can hear you now. Carry
Can
on,
you
please.
hear me? Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
loud and clear.
Yeah.
Carry on, please.
Okay, so this week I'm here to present healthcare contracts and transactions. So just a moment, please. Okay, so health contract. I'll start by defining what a health contract. So by this slide, you could see that health contracts are documents that represent the business relationship between either the provider, the patient, and the payer. So the next thing we should be asking, who is the provider? A provider can be an individual physician or a provider organization with multiple doctors and staff. And examples are hospitals, clinics. Then a payer is typically an insurance company that can be an individual who is paying out of pocket for medical services. And examples of that are in Nigeria, which we have the NHIS. So then the provider contract is a vital element for any healthcare provider who wishes to operate a smooth run facility with high patient satisfaction. So before you think of having contracts between a provider, even the patient, there must be a contract, and it either can be by written, mostly, which as at last week we learned that that it is wise that we should enter into a written agreement when it comes to healthcare. So healthcare transactions is the transactions that exchanges between two parties to carry out either financially or administrative activities. And medical contracts have three basic parts, which is an offer. So an offer is a promise one party makes to the other person in exchange for performance. That then an acceptance refers to the person's compliance to an offer made by another person. Then consideration is a promise performance that the promisor, it can either be the health provider to the promisee, which it can either be the patient. So then we have to broaden our scope of doctor-patient contract. They said we must understand the following, that the first person a patient meets at the clinic for treatment, that shows that there's an attempt to establish a contract, and the consent, like trying to buy a card, trying to get necessary information, divulging those information and trying to get set to see a doctor, it seems as consent, and always it also establishes a contract by those information sharing. Then doctors also are not allowed to divulge patient clinical details. Part of the research we did was that we did this week trying to get this done. We were meant to understand that once a patient meets a doctor, and there's an already established contract by the patient agreeing that the doctor should take care of him, to attend to him, the doctor is not allowed to divulge any information, even when in the process of the patient trying to go from one place to another, like going to get tests done. The doctor only divulge the necessary information ready for that test. Even trying to get and go into the pharmacy to get prescription, the pharmacist is not supposed to know more than what the doctor has prescribed. So you don't need to go into in depth to know what the patient is what treatment the patient is trying to achieve at that point in time. So it should be noted that the healthcare must be documented. If not, then it does not exist. When it comes to contract, everything must be documented. If not, and the doctor with us last when we did when we were trying to compile this presentation made us to understand that everything must be documented. That if it is not documented, it does not exist. And so we have different types of healthcare contracts, which are physician recruitment contracts, physician employment contract, medical director contract, patient transfer contract, equipment lease contract, managed services contract, purchased services contract, technology licensing contract, joint venture contract. So I'll be explaining each of them, like that. When it comes to the physician recruitment contract, this is a type of contract that is used to attract physicians to a healthcare facilities. These are where like the healthcare facility advertise, oh, we need doctors, we need physicians, any kind of medical services, and whoever that applies, there's always a binding contract to work according to the terms and conditions of that healthcare facility. So physician employment contract, this outlines a physician relationship with the facility, which include detailed information on the standard aspect of the relationship, that schedule, expectation, benefits, pay on an on-call requirement. So we have medical director contracts, that's a medical director, which outlines the responsibilities of a physician in the role of a medical director. Like the key elements of this type of healthcare contract usually include compensation, the contract term, termination procedures, and the physician responsibilities. So as a medical director, that medical director owns a very vital, it's actually having a very vital position in that facility. So there should be a very there should be a document that is binding. The medical director, like, he oversees like most of the activities of the hospitals, and is saddled with a lot of responsibility. And those responsibilities should not be said orally. There should be a binding document on the do's and don'ts, and also benefit compensation, because the medical director might be working more than every other person. So there should also be a compensation in terms of the workload. So the patient transfer contract is needed whenever a patient care is moved from one facility to another. The contract typically includes details like care duration, contract termination, who is involved, and what are their responsibilities, and other odds, and like billing and insurance and information. So a patient is allowed to transfer his or her contract from one facility to another. So it has to go with different kind of information, and maybe there's an existing treatment from that place. So such has to be documented. That's like you're transferring your file. I currently not in Nigeria, like I'm in the US. I was using the healthcare facility I was with before. By the time I left school and I went to enroll in another health care facility, they had to also I had to sign a consent for them to request for my medical record from my school to the new place. And it took a while, because those persons really wanted to know I was the one requesting for that, and the consent and everything I signed before they agreed to release my medical record. So I'm just citing an example. So equipment lease contracts, these are contracts aside from every other thing medical, like a medical facility needs maybe they're buying a land, an office space, equipment, like in terms of servicing, different things they use, because they have people that also that are responsible. They have companies that are responsible with this equipment. The doctors do not know how it works. So there should also be a contract of when to service it, how to service it, who pays. the building are they renting it, are they leasing it, are they buying it? There should be terms and conditions and every other thing. So this is where we have that. So also we have managed services contracts. This managed services contract include information about agreement, the scope of work.
Please, you kindly begin to round off. Please, the time is almost up.
Yes, I'm almost done. Performed timelines and also cost schedule and payments in terms of details and that. So under the purchase services, these can also help like cost of hiring an employee and also the risks that are involved in hiring an employee and also other things that are bought on under hire purchase. So there should also be a contract with that. So technology license contract, these are agreements, details about the technology to be used, how it should be used. This also aligned with what we read, what we did last week. So in terms of technologies under the e-health, so things and, patients and everything we learned. So this falls under it. Then the joint venture agreement, this can be agreement between one or two health facilities. So it shouldn't be orally. If this person is providing this other service, this other person is sending my patients to that, there's an exchange of service. There should also be an agreement. So in all, healthcare agreements and healthcare contracts and transactions goes hand in hand. So the process of doing one, it also affects the other. There cannot be a transaction without a contract, and there cannot be a contract without a transaction. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Esther. Hey. Thank you. That's indeed, yes, she deserves a round of applause. That was really beautiful, nicely done. I like the confidence you went through the presentation. That was beautifully done. I believe your team is really proud of you for the nice presentation. Amazing work. I heard a whole lot of contrasts. I'm like, wow, nicely done. And thanks also for your beautiful slide. Okay, I will open the floor to our mentor to take over. Mentees, do not forget, please, engage him in the chat box. Let's not have him be as though he's talking to himself. Engage in the chat box. Times where he probably needs us to respond, kindly respond to him as well. And if you have any question, if it's a live question, please keep it ready for the time of questions and answers. At this point, please, I'll be handing over to Mr. Ebenezer Agwatu for his overview on the topic and as well as his feedback on the presentation. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The presentation, as usual, is good. The slides are okay, and the content are quite depth, the research, even though they are concise. But I want to lay emphasis on patient-physician contract, because as she was just talking, I think that was 2021, right? 2021. Last year was 2022. Yes, December 2021. I was at Lutz to talk to Association of Resident Doctors. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I was at Lutz to talk to Association of Resident Doctors, Lutz branch, on the modern doctor and the law. So as she was just reading, I opened my presentation there and scrolled to my presentation on the doctor-patient relationship, the legal perspective. So I want to lay emphasis on that a little. Now, we need to know that as properly captured contracts, once it is written, it captures the agreement, the understanding of the parties. In contracts, you do not make assumptions. Every of your assumptions has to be captured in the document. Once the documents are executed by the parties involved, that's signed by the parties involved, that's the end of the story. So you cannot now come and say, okay, we agreed on this, it wasn't captured. For the physician recruitment contract, It's supposed to contain everything that is due to the physician, the doctor, his allowances, his entitlements supposed to be contained therein. His obligations, his schedules. You don't leave anything to chances or assume he's supposed to know now. You are a doctor, you have been practicing, you are supposed to know. Or this is a hospital, they are supposed to know that I'm supposed to have this. The same thing goes with every other contract here. The medical director's contract. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, the way we manage our hospitals here, which is partly why our hospitals don't do well, is because here we insist that our CMD, our medical director, must be, or rather, the hospital must be managed by medical practitioners. We don't have people who are seasoned administrators managing our hospitals. Yes, some doctors, because they want to now go into hospital management, can take 1 or 2 courses in administration and management. That's fantastic. But most times what we have here is this person has been a doctor for substance, he's the most senior doctor, he has experience, he's a consultant, he's this, he's that. We now make him the chief medical director. And in doing that, all he knows is how to practice medicine, except the few that are wise and smart enough to get trainings and certification in management and administration. We have patient transfer, equipment leasing, management services, purchase contracts, technology licensing, and joint venture. Now, for joint venture, let me give a joint venture could be that somebody wants to build a hospital. He approaches a landowner on the agreement that you give me your land, I will build the hospital on your land. We want to run a business, establish a hospital. So it's joint venture. Your equity contribution is that you're providing the land on which the hospital is to be built, while I provide the building and run the hospital. Now, some joint venture contracts are tripartite. A lot of hospitals do joint venture. Beyond the land, a lot of hospitals, you can build a hospital, another private hospital can apply to manage it. Example, here in Abuja, we have the Lisa Garki Hospital. It used to be Garki Hospital, a government hospital, but a private hospital has applied and is currently managing it at the moment. That's joint venture. So they will draw up an agreement that will favor both parties. It is important that any contract, whether it is health-related contract or not, any contract you are engaging in, it is important that you get a lawyer to draft it for you if you are not one. And even if you are one, after drafting, it's important that you give another lawyer to look at it. If you are not a lawyer and you are venturing into any business and there is need for contracts or agreements, as you draft, before you sign, endeavor to get a lawyer to look at it, not the other party's lawyer, your own lawyer, because each lawyer is paid to protect the interest of his clients. If you are party A and party B brings a lawyer, they'll say, don't worry, my lawyer will draft the agreement. I will pay. In fact, don't worry, I will bear the financial cost. Don't worry, just sign. My friend, look at that agreement well. You have been sold. If you feel okay because his lawyer is drafting the agreement, he will be fair to you, you are mistaken. Because each lawyer's primary interest or business is to protect the interest of his clients. There are certain clauses, just one word like this, one word. we change the whole tenure of the agreement against you. By this time, it is too late because you have signed already. So it is important that when you are entering any form of agreement, that you get a lawyer to look at it. Then the presentation generally is okay. They captured everything I would have added to this. But like I said, let me emphasize on the patient-doctor relationship, which was not properly captured in the agreement. Now I'm going to read what I had presented some time ago. I will skip some, just read the portions that are relevant to this discussion. A doctor-patient relationship is central to healthcare and practice of medicine. A doctor-patient relationship is formed when the doctor attends to a patient's medical needs, and it's usually through consent. Yes. Now, the other time we talked about consent being either expressed or implied. This relationship is built on trust. This is where I want to emphasize. This relationship is built on trust, respect, communication, and the common understanding of both the doctor and patient side. Please, before I proceed, we have two facilitators today, right? Hello?
No, sir.
Can you
Just
hear
one.
me? Eh?
Just one. Just
Okay, am I the
No, sir,
only
just one.
facilitator? Okay, so that I don't use up the entire time. So this relationship is built on trust, communication, and common understanding of both the doctor and patient sides. The trust aspect of this relationship is mutual. The doctor trusts the patient to reveal any information that may be relevant to the case. And in turn, the patient trusts the doctor to respect their privacy and not disclose this information to outside parties. An important dynamic of the doctor-patient relationship is that the doctor is bounded by oath to follow certain ethical guidelines, that's the Hippocratic oath, whereas the patient is not. Additionally, the healthiness of a doctor-patient relationship is essential to keep the quality of the patient's health care high, as well as to ensure that the doctor is functioning at their optimum. In more recent times, healthcare has become more patient-centered, and this has brought a new dynamic to this patient relationship. The patient must have confidence in the competence of their physician and must feel that they can confide in them or in him or her. For most physicians, the establishment of good rapport with a patient is important. Some medical specialties such as psychiatry and family medicine emphasize the physician-patient relationship more than others, such as pathology or radiology, which have very little contact with the patients. So I just needed to get this accept so that we have a broader understanding that beyond signing, in most cases, apart from card, okay, let me even say, once you go to hospital and you get admitted, you pick your card. You have already established a doctor-patient relationship, and there is no signed contract to that effect. So what I just read out now is what is going to guide that relationship. Of course, the doctor is a professional. He has been trained on ethics and patient management and all that. He knows what to do. But most times, out of lack of discipline or respect for ethics, things go wrong. Unfortunately, the doctor-patient relationship is a fiduciary relationship, such that the doctor has upper hand than the patient. The doctor is in a position of influence than the patient. The patient can come into the doctor's office for whatever case, and the doctor says, remove your clothes. Without questioning, the patient will remove his clothes. Now, that is a huge trust that the doctor is not expected to abuse. Now, for other contracts, which are explicitly stated, I'm drawing a distinction now to say that the doctor-patient relationship or contract, if we put it that way, the doctor-patient contract is more complicated than these other forms of contracts here. Why is it so? Because in these other contracts, both parties come together as equals. If you are doing a joint venture contract, I am bringing this on the table, you are bringing this on the table, we agree on terms, we agree on benefits, we go away, we sign. So before signing, the agreement is documented and everybody scrutinizes it. As you're signing, you're agreeing to what you want to bind you. It is not so with doctor-patient contract because it is not most times written. It is not most times written. It is implied by the conduct of both parties on the ground that the doctor will live up to his professional expectation and capacity. Now, the patient is at the receiving end. The patient is, let me use the word, incapacitated to an extent because he is at the mercy of the doctor, he or she is at the mercy of the doctor. And that is why the law will hold the doctor accountable, more accountable if anything goes wrong, because they are not contracting as equals. While the doctor is doing his professional duties, he is obligated to protect at all costs the interest of the patient at all times, because the patient, except now that we are beginning to advocate for patients' rights, the patient doesn't even know his rights, doesn't know when those rights are abused. So that is a responsibility that is cast on the doctor. If there are questions, I'll be willing to take them. Is Dr. Victor in the house today? Or do we have any medical doctor participants today?
I don't think Victor is on the call today.
Okay, so let's go ahead. If there are questions, you can ask them.
Okay, before the question and answer session, I think we should take the picture time session first. So we encourage everyone to put on their camera and smile for the camera. We'll be taking a quick screenshot of our screens for our social media posts. Okay, I can see Diongo, Messi. Okay, IJ. I've taken some screenshots. Thank you very much, everyone that put on their screen. God's love, I can't see you. Adam, Amina. Okay, yeah. So we encourage everyone to send their questions to the chat box, or
So if you have your questions, you can send them in.
Kindly raise your hand
or if you have a live question.
Yeah, so we have questions that were sent before this session. So I'll just
okay.
Idiongo had his hand raised, so you should
go ahead.
on first with this question.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
I was really particularly interested. Yes, I understand the patient-doctor relationship is the primary relationship as far as it comes to healthcare. But I was particularly interested in these contracts where we have the HMOs on one part, the hospitals on the second part, and the patients or subscribers on the third part. How does it work? What are the responsibilities? Who bears liability in the event of any mishap?
Mishap.
Is it the hospital?
Okay.
Is it the HMO?
You know,
and all of that.
Okay, now it's tripartite, it's tripartite contract. The HMO has contract with the hospital. The patient has contract with the HMO. Do you get it? Now, the patient, the subscribers are actually paying to the HMO through deductions from their salaries. Do you understand? Now, the HMO now pays the hospital. The only thing is that the contract, normally, as a subscriber, or rather, if you are not a subscriber, if there is any issue, you go to the hospital and you pay out of pocket. Now, in most cases, you are required to make payments upfront before you are treated, before the hospital commences treatment. But with the insurance scheme, once you get to the hospital and present your number or your card or identification that you are a subscriber to this HMO, treatment commences. And in some cases, you get to pay only 10% of the total cost. In some complex surgeries, the person just pays peanuts because the HMO is bearing the higher cost. Now, if anything goes wrong, the patient will sue the hospital. The patient will sue the healthcare provider that attended to him. I told us here last week that a doctor is not bound to treat a patient. But where he commences treatment, he is expected to give the highest standard of treatment of a doctor of his professional colleague of his standing. So if you are a consultant and you are treating a patient, the expected level of competence to be displayed by you is that of a consultant. If you now come and give a treatment of a housemaster, you are liable, regardless whether the patient is paying you money or not. Now, another issue that may arise here is maybe they have treated the patient is supposed to pay balance of 10%, the patient didn't pay. The hospital has a contract with the HMO. The hospital can sue the HMO to recover their money because the HMO, the patient is actually a client of the HMO, which was referred to the hospital. Now, I did a recovery. When was that? That was they paid their money last month, but I started that work January or February this year. An eye clinic is providing services for a HMO. The HMO refers clients to the eye clinic. Now, the eye clinic has been treating and the HMO is not paying. So they engaged me to help recover their money. HMO, the eye clinic did not go to the patients they treated. Are you getting it, sir? The eye clinic did not go to the patients that treated. I still have their letters, the mails here. The eye clinic did not go to the patients they treated. The eye clinic wrote to the HMO. I mailed the HMO. I wrote them a letter. This is who I am. This is my brief. You have within so and so time to pay this money to this eye clinic. Towards the end of last month, today is 15th. What's today's date, please? 13th, right? 13th,
Yes,
good.
13th.
Towards the end of last month, the HMO wrote me back requesting for the account details of the eye clinic so that they could pay the money. Now, you see what I said earlier. The HMO has a contract with the hospital. The patient has a contract, though indirect, through the HMO with the hospital. But when anything goes wrong as it relates to treatment, because it is not the HMO that examined the patient, it is not the HMO that made prescription. Once you call yourself a doctor, whether you're a general practitioner or a specialized practitioner, you have put yourself out as to having a certain level of experience to handle certain cases. Now, are you aware that even doctors' licenses are renewed? Are you aware that there are cases you want to handle? Why do you think doctors bring in doctors? A hospital wants to do a case, then we bring a surgeon in a certain area. If you are a gynecologist and you have been treating women, that doesn't make you a neurosurgeon. Even if you studied neurosurgery as your area of specialization and you don't have the certification, the license to operate, you have all the knowledge and you don't have the license to operate, at the moment you did the surgery, you are against the law. If your license is for 3 years and it expires after 3 years and you didn't renew and you went ahead to conduct a surgery, at that time, material time you were operating, if you do not have your license to operate, even though you have all the experience and knowledge, the law is against you. So it is for this reason that you see one hospital bringing in another doctor so that this doctor's license can cover what we are doing now. The doctor may just be part of the team because of his license. So he will head the team and the others will assist. Even though those assisting are actually wrong, it is against the law. As a medical doctor, anytime you are attending to a patient, your license is supposed to be up to date. So if a doctor operates without license and something goes wrong, the patient will hold the doctor liable. If the doctor operates with a license and something goes wrong, the patient will hold the doctor liable. But when it comes to payments that the patient has not paid, the hospital will hold the HMO responsible. Is that clear, sir?
Very clear, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr.
Next
Ebenezer.
question.
Mr. Ebenezer, thank you very much. We also encourage other mentees to bring in their questions, their live questions, before we ask the questions that were sent before the call. But before I move on to the question and answer session, I will quickly recognize Mr. Ijeweme Odiawa is on the call. He's also a mentor. I didn't know earlier. I just got informed right now. We are so sorry we are not called upon earlier to give us a talk on the topic. So I think we have another mentor in our midst. So we'll give him 15 minutes to give us his own perspective on the topic, health tech contracts and transactions.
Hello, everyone.
Apologies, sir. Thank you very much.
No problem, no problem. Hello, everyone. Please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, sir. I can hear you loud and clear.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
All right, great. So hello again. My name is Iji Odiawa. I'm a doctor, right? So practiced for a couple of years now, and both in the public and private sectors. And I'm currently in health strategy. So yeah, on the issue at hand, on the topic at hand, our colleague Ebenezer has really done justice to the topic. Really, I really don't know if there's anything to add, really, because I mean, he's a lawyer, for crying out loud. So and this is a matter of health contracts. There was something you said that really struck a nerve with me. The fact that doctors owe a fiduciary responsibility to patients, right? So briefly building upon that, another thing I want us to realize that it's really a social contract, right? A lot of the responsibility of healthcare personnel, and it's not just doctors, right? It's easy to focus on doctors because they are generally perceived as the leaders of the healthcare team. But the truth is that when we're talking about fiduciary responsibility to patients, we're actually looking at every member of the healthcare workforce. So starting with doctors, nurses, physiotherapists, person at the lab, person at the pharmacy, everybody is involved. So I want us to sort of tweak our paradigm that it's not just doctors, it is the healthcare team, right? Healthcare workers. So now, building upon that we're talking about healthcare workers, not just the doctor, right? What then is the responsibility of the doctor, of the healthcare worker to the patient? I think first of all, every patient or everybody who comes to the hospital signs a social contract with their provider. Provider, in this sense, I'm talking about doctors, nurses, whoever is providing them the care. In healthcare generally, there's a lot of information asymmetry. That is, I think Ebenezer alluded to this earlier, that there's a lot of, the doctor and the healthcare workers know a lot more than the patients, and that's why the patients come to them in the first place. So if there's a lot of information asymmetry, then it behoves upon the healthcare workers to act in the best interests of the patient. In fact, in the very name itself, healthcare, right? People focus on the health part and forget about the care part. In my experience in clinical practice, a lot of the legal issues around healthcare have come when providers have sort of not given enough care, even though they provided the best health that they could, right? So they followed all the healthcare protocols, they did everything by the book, by the textbook, but the patients were still dissatisfied. They felt you did not do well enough. Why? Because there was no empathy, there was no feeling behind it. So I don't know which country of origin many of our respondents are, but if I assume that we are from the same country, then we will probably have experience with general hospitals where the nurses want to give you injections and they're like, Madam, turn, yeah, don't shake, madam, if you shake, I will leave you, things like that. So they are giving injections, but they're not showing the care. So they are giving you health in terms of the drugs or injection without the care. And that's usually where patients have a problem. And in my experience, those who did not experience proper care, even if they experience health, usually the hospitals will end up having to go to court to prove that they provided health. But the truth is that many of the problems would have been avoided if they had provided health care, if they had added the care to the health. And I think that's really a part that is really missing. Going forward, it's probably the job of healthcare personnel and healthcare leaders, administrative leaders, to train and retrain their staff, because a lot of these things are learned in our environment from, I don't know, I think people would argue that Nigeria or Africa in general is a very, people tend to abuse power a lot. And being a healthcare is actually a position of power over patients. So they tend to abuse it. So basically training and retraining of the staff to know that they are sort of fiduciaries and should provide care. I've also known, I'll just mention this in passing, this second point, that litigation tends to rise as the price of healthcare goes up. So a lot of malpractice goes on in primary healthcare centers and all these small clinics, small mushroom clinics, but you will not hear anything. Usually don't hear court cases from those places. Where you usually hear court cases from are from the big established hospitals with international standard protocols and all that. Why is this so? I will leave that question open-ended, right? I'll leave you to sort of decipher. Right? There are many factors, and I wouldn't want to just jump and make assumptions, right? So I'll leave that to you. You could respond later on. I'll dive into the questions that were asked. Like I'm seeing 3 questions here that were asked even before today. What is the proper legal response from a healthcare facility to a deceased person? I think what the question, probably what the person who asked this question meant was, what is the proper legal response from a healthcare facility to the family of a deceased person? Because a deceased person cannot take you to court. A deceased person cannot, I'm not sure a deceased person has legal rights, but the living do. And so I think that the proper legal response from a healthcare facility, I've alluded to it, is first to show care and to realize that you are acting in a fiduciary role, right? And then on the healthcare part, to maintain international standards of care that are beyond reproach, basically. So if in the event that the patient passes away, because you need to recognize that, I'm sorry, please just let me know when I have like 2 minutes left so that I could just wrap up so it doesn't turn into a long monologue.
You can wrap up now, sir.
Okay, great. So I guess I'll just answer just this first question. The proper legal response to healthcare facility to the deceased person, I think that what is most important is, number 1, showing care, and number 2, ensuring that standards are met, right? International standards are met. And if you have done these, then you're actually beyond reproach, because people will always sue you. People will always be angry. It is not the job of hospitals to prevent death. It is not the job of hospitals to give life. It's the job of hospitals to postpone death, right? Because hospitals cannot even prevent death. All they do is postpone it. So yeah, I think I'll stop there for the sake of brevity.
I thank you very much, Mr. IJ, for that, Dr. IJ, for that contribution on the topic, and also the answer to the first question. We are still in the question and answer session, so I'll just ask Mr. Ebenezer to contribute to that answer before we move on to the next question.
Okay, thank you, my
Mr.
brother.
Ebenezer.
Hello, can you hear me? Thank you, doctor.
Yes, we can hear you,
I am glad and satisfied with your inputs. Then to clear the doubts.
Okay, sir.
Hello? Yes. Said I'm glad and satisfied with your inputs. And to clear the doubt on the question you posed, that there are a lot of malpractices that go on at the primary health care center. But unfortunately, we don't have litigations coming from them. The reason is in the face of all of us. Number 1 is poverty, ignorance. Those who utilize the primary health care center, even though by the categorization, it is supposed to be the closest health care center to the people and attend to certain category of ailments. Unfortunately, because of the epileptic nature of our healthcare system, structure-wise, everybody goes to the tertiary. Some people even avoid the secondary. So everybody, you have headache, you go to a teaching hospital. You have your anything, everybody goes to tertiary. And those who can afford that level of care and the cost, when they have put in so much money to get care, these are exposed people, these are rich people, these are people who have stakes in the society, even though everybody is a stakeholder. So when they go there and something goes wrong, they know their rights, they're enlightened. Some of them are the people who contributed to making the laws we are even relying on. So, but the village, the petty trader in the village sees the healthcare provider as the alpha and omega. She doesn't know she has a right to complain. She doesn't know she has a right to refuse treatment. She doesn't know she has a right to information. She doesn't know anything. So even when they don't, she doesn't even have a sense of self-worth that a doctor, a healthcare provider shouts or backs at you. You can't, you just cringe and say, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. But you can't do that to the rich and influential person who have had all the exposures within and outside Nigeria. So poverty is there as one of the reasons why malpractices at primary healthcare don't make it to the news, except maybe if it involves loss of life and a third party hears it and takes it up. In fact, there's a case that came to me when that was not a primary health center, a tertiary hospital. The woman was pregnant with twins, did her scan, did everything. Pregnancy showed twins at the hospital facility. Then she did scan again, confirmatory test outside the hospital facility. It showed twins. Then upon delivery, she was handed one baby. She didn't do anything about it. She didn't know what to do. She just said, okay, if they say it's one. It was her neighbor who is enlightened that called me and said, Ebenezer, this is what is happening. I said, okay, can I speak with the woman? The woman was reluctant to comfort. So we couldn't help her because we can't force our help on you. So these are the reasons why. There might be many more, but these are just few. So can we go to the questions, please?
Yes, sir. I'll take the next question from Mr. Ebenezer. What justification do hospitals have to hold on to the bodies of HIV and AIDS patients in government-owned facilities until a family relative of the deceased donates good blood back to the facility?
I don't get it. Please, can you repeat the question?
Okay. The question is on the chat box, sir. What justification do hospitals have to hold on to the bodies of HIV and AIDS patients in government-owned facility until a family or relative of the deceased donates good blood back to the facility?
No. The question, let me put it this way. This should be an exception. That is not the practice. Do you understand? Whoever sent this question should contact me privately so that we can have further understanding. But let me answer generally. That is not the practice. Once there's a deceased patient and the family have settled all their bills, the hospital releases the corpse, regardless of the cause of death, except in COVID's case. COVID, we are all aware of COVID-19, except in COVID, because some practices, people may not handle the corpse well, and they will further spread the virus. Do you understand? Now, I know there was a man that was in Kogi State. A professor died during COVID. His corpse was actually taken from the hospital, more like forcefully or stolen away. And when they wanted to do their traditional preparation of corpse, bathing the corpse, this person died of COVID. In the course of doing that, everybody that touched it, we all know how COVID gets transmitted. Everybody that came in contact with that, because the corpse is contaminated, the corpse is infected. the fact that the person has died does not mean that the viruses are no longer active. So in such a case, if they find out, so that you don't just draw conclusion, if there is a reason that the hospital is detaining the body, it could be for public health reason, not that because the person died of HIV. Two, it could be that the family, the hospital have used the blood they have in their blood bank to treat this patient who eventually gives up. And you know our African people, the person, what's the need of paying? The person has died, the person has died. So coming to pay for the blood that they transfused, they won't do it because the person has died. And the hospital is now saying, okay, this is the only way we can get you to replace the blood we took out of the blood bank. I am just trying to make up, fill in the gaps, but it is not possible that the hospital will detain a corpse because the family did not donate blood. That is not the practice. That is not the practice. So like I said, the person who asked the question, if the person is comfortable with it, the person can chat me up privately and give me further insights. Then in our next class, I can bring further perspective to it. But generally speaking, that is not the practice. So can we have the next question?
Okay, thank
please?
you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Ebenezer.
You're welcome.
I think the next question is for Dr. IJ. What is the extent of applicability of warranties and representation in a healthcare contract?
Thank you. With your kind permission, I'll leave my video off. The extent of applicability of warranties and representation in healthcare contracts. I think that a healthcare contract is just like any other contract. Of course, it has its peculiarities, but overall, it's a contract, an agreement between two people or two parties, two or more parties, basically, that is upheld by law. So it is very applicable. I don't know if there's any word like that is stronger than very, but you can remove it and put it in front of that, where it is in front of applicable, because warranties, representation, these are contract terms, standard contract terms in law, and it is, I don't know how to emphasize how so yes, basically the simple answer is yes. Warranties and representation in healthcare contracts are very applicable. I'll keep it that way. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Dr. IJ. I'll also call on Mr. Ebenezer to give his contribution.
He has answered the question and he's very correct. But let me just add a little flesh with a vivid example. You want to do plastic surgery. A doctor, a plastic surgeon makes a representation to you. You say you want your nose to be shifted from here. You want your nostrils to be facing up now. You want these two holes here to now be here. And the plastic surgeon makes that representation that he will do it. That he can do it. Once he makes that representation, he is bound to do that. Now, where he fails, the patient will succeed in contract. But because this is health-related one, except where the patient is insisting, you can sue for specific performance and say, let him, maybe he has finished his surgery now and the nostrils are facing this way. You can sue for specific performance, but his failure to do that has already shown you his incompetence. So asking for specific performance will not work here. What the court will grant is damages. So, in a nutshell, warranties and representations are very, very applicable. You see these people now who go to do their Botox and Botox enlargement and do all manner of things. Now, it's just that a lot of them don't know. You might have seen videos of the failed ones. Those people, they have a right to sue whoever did that to them and recover good damages because that was not the representation or warranty given to them before the contract. So at those high-level surgical procedures, they have their separate contracts. At those high level, you do specifications in details what you want. And the doctor say, I can do it. I will do like this, I will do like this, I will do like this. Once he gives you that warranty or representation and he fails to deliver on that, you can sue him. And you will get compensated by the courts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that will be the last question that was sent before the class. I still soliciting for questions from our mentees. If we don't have any more questions, we believe we've come to the end of today's program. Thank you very much, Mr. Ebenezer and Dr. IJ, for making now time today, this evening, to mentor us on JIIPCC Mentorship and Internship Program. Part of the announcement that we skipped from the beginning was that next quarter mentorship program, we'll be having 4 courses that will be offering blockchain, NFTs and metaverse, intellectual property, entertainment, business law, fintech, and finally I've mentioned it already, blockchain, NFTs and metaverse. So those are the courses, and also you get to have a 30-minute one-on-one session with your favorite JIIPCC mentor. So you can also take advantage of that opportunity from JIIPCC. Thank you very much once more, Mr. IJ, for joining us today. We hope to see you on our future sessions. And thank you very much, Mr. Ebenezer, and also the presenter for today on behalf of the group. Thank you very much, all our mentees, for the group work. I'll see.
Thank you very
This is
much,
the end of
and have a
today.
blessed
So
day.
thank you very much everyone for joining, and
Thank you.
have a lovely weekend.
You too.
Thank you very much,
you.
sirs.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.